Super Rugby Power Rankings, end of the regular season. 18 rounds down. Calculations are all in. It's been a bit of fun doing these power rankings over the course of the season. I think I'll definitely make adjustments for these for next year because there's definitely more fine tuning to do. But you only kind of find out about that stuff as you do it. So yeah, we'll get started from the bottom. Before I do, actually, where would you put a team who's had 3 wins in their last 6 games? 3 out of their last 6. Good question. Sunwolves are at 15. There's no move in them. 2 wins in the whole season. Started off reasonably brightly. I think the highest they hit was 11th. That's it. They are done. Next, down 3 spots, are the Rebels. They've had more than 100 points put on them in a couple of weeks. One of them was at home. Yeah, the Rebels ended the season pretty terribly. 3 losses in a row to end the season. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I thought they might be turning things around, but obviously not to be. That does mean, though, my Blues get to go up a spot because I dropped the Rebels like a stone. They threw away, well, don't know if they threw it away or if the Hurricanes tore away a game that was potentially a win for them, but they also lost. And somehow this means the Waratahs are also up. No, the Waratahs are there. The Reds are there. Sorry, the bottom teams are a bit of a bane of my existence at the moment. None of those teams deserve to be up, but the Rebels just pushed everyone down. So the Rebels going down means the teams around them went up, but none of those teams finished the season well. The Reds at least had 1 recent win over the Blues, and the Waratahs had a couple of recent wins over the Rebels and the Reds. That's it. They all finished the season pretty poor. Speaking of finishing the season poor, the Lions, they finished the season with 3 losses out of their last 4 games, which is probably not enough to make the playoffs, and they are not in the playoffs. So disappointing year for them. I guess the only bit of good news recently was that Malcolm Marx is going to do like a stint in Japan and then be back in South Africa. He's not taking like a French contract or something. So yeah, bright side, I guess. Highlanders are up 1. Highlanders did just squeak into the playoffs. Their recent record was like a bye, a draw, and a win. So it's kind of not an emphatic tail end to the season, but it was enough. So they've now got a trip to Christchurch, which looks like a huge task, but to be honest, I feel like the guys from Dunedin would have more chance than perhaps somebody travelling from overseas, someone international. So we'll see if that is a factor or not. Next, and down 2 spots, the Stormers end the season tryless. There were concerns about them scoring tries at the start of the season. It ended up costing them in that final game, only able to score 9 points through 3 penalties. Last 4 of the season was 50-50, so that they needed it to be 1 more than that, but it wasn't to be. So the Stormers finished the season with a tryless game, and it is not enough for them to squeak into the playoffs, so they are out. The Sharks, I've got up 2 spots. They finished the season also with a 50-50 record, the difference being that 1 result they got at the end was just enough to get them in at the price of the Stormers. So they traditionally travel well away this season, so we'll see if that is something they can continue doing in the playoffs. There'd be a lot of travel if they were to go on in the comp. Next, I've got the Chiefs up 3 spots. Chiefs have got 4 out of their last 6. That includes a bye and the loss. So they've only had 1 loss of their last 6. So they are coming good at the right time. And to be fair, of all the wildcard teams, I feel like that's the team that nobody really wants to play. So the Jaguares are going to have a massive job ahead of them because the Chiefs mean business. They are in huge form. So the Jaguares will have to be good if they are going to hold them off because they are really peaking at the right time. I have the Bulls in at 5th. Not so emphatic recently, but over the course of the season, good. But that being said, only one loss in their last 5. So they did enough in New Zealand with a couple of draws, enough to get them through. And their quarterfinal is also going to be a pretty tough one to play the Hurricanes. So again, it's going to be a bit of travel involved if they're going to do anything. But with Pollard in form, the Bulls definitely have a bit of hope. Now, where did you guys put that team that I asked you if they had like 3 wins of their last 6 games? Because the Crusaders are here in 4th. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think the Crusaders are the team to beat. I don't think anyone's going to beat them in Christchurch, and I would not be surprised if they get another title. But just their recent record doesn't read that impressive. So they've had a bye, and then prior to that they had a massive win, which reminded us all that they are a very good team. Prior to that was the loss to the Chiefs in Fiji. Prior to that was a win. Prior to that was a draw. Prior to that was a win. Prior to that was a draw. So that's not an impeccable record. You can look at it from 2 ways. I mean, if you include the bye, that's 3 wins from 7. But if you include just the losses, that's 1 loss out of 7. So you can kind of work it both ways. There was a point at this season where it didn't look like anyone was going to get close to the Crusaders. So all I think this indicates is that in the latter half of the season, the gap has been proven to be not that big. That being said, I still think they're going to win. So despite what the maths has produced here, the Crusaders still have to be favourites. The Brumbies up 1. And, I mean, basically it's 6 in a row, plus a bye. So eventually the maths just adds up. If you look at all these factors like who they played, you could probably say that, they're in an easier conference based on where some of the other Aussie teams are at. But I do take the strength of the teams into consideration. But it's just 6 in a row. It's gonna add up with anybody. I did mention in my other video that the Brumbies, I think, are pretty good value for their spot this time. I mentioned it a few years ago. They made the playoffs when, like, on points, they were maybe 6th or 7th or something like that. But, no, they're a legit high points team. So, I mean, not that I have anything against the Sharks. It'd be nice to see the Brumbies come out and confidently get a win rather than ending the season with a whimper. So, we'll see how that one goes. It's going to be an interesting game. But the Brumbies have looked pretty good value, especially at the second half of the season. The Hurricanes are in 2nd. They've, since round 8 to 18, they've only lost 1 game, and that was to the Jaguares. So they've only lost to the Jaguares and the Crusaders, which is this year the number 1 and the number 2 teams. So, yeah, on points, the Hurricanes would be the number 2 team. But, yeah, so they don't lose to the dregs. They only lose to the top teams. Even their B team beats the Blues. So, yeah, they've had a pretty good season. And the Jaguares maintain top spot 5 in a row. Before that was 4 wins in a row, and I think there was a bye. So, yeah, the Jaguares have not... They only had that 1 loss recently, and it was to the Highlanders, and that was a bonus point, very close loss where they were kind of unlucky, where the ref was pretty hard on them. So, yeah, that's the end of the power rankings. If I was going by power rankings, that means our top 4 teams would all go through, so all of the away teams would lose. I think all of the home teams will be the favourites. But as I said, the Jaguares are not going to have an easy job with the Chiefs. The Sharks and the Brumbies, I would have to go for the Brumbies at home, but the Sharks is, again, away from home pretty good. Bulls against the Canes. Bulls would need to play pretty well to beat the Canes, but it has been done the season before. And Highlanders to face the Crusaders looks like a pretty mammoth ask, but you never know. You guys let me know your thoughts on the rankings, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.